Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm just a simple Canadian here to react to a simple American here to react to the Canadian flag. Before we get started, I'd just like you to know I have tried to do some sound testing, and I hope that this video is a lot better than my last video. Now, 2 videos ago, I did briefly mention about the flag and what I thought that I remembered about what it means. And it was something similar to from coast to coast and through the snow, we are Canadian blood through and through. That's not exactly what I said, but that's what I think. So it'll be interesting to see what Tyler Bucket, the wonderful and amazing Tyler Bucket, learns about the flag in today's reaction video. So without much ado here, I'm going to get the picture off the screen and press the play button.
What's going on, everyone? I'm just a simple, ordinary American guy here to learn and react to how did Canada choose its flag. The Canadian flag is basically iconic in American culture. Every American knows this flag because it's so unique. It's got the leaf on it. I hate to just reduce it down to the leaf, but come on, it's pretty distinct. And obviously, that's a symbol that must ring very true to either some kind of deep inner meaning to Canada, or kind of the reason I'm watching this video.
Well, one reason we chose the maple leaf is because we have a lot of maple trees. Quebec is the home of maple syrup, and where I grew up out in a forest, we had maple trees that dropped maple leaves.
Is there another reason? How did Canada come up with this really distinct, fun, interesting flag? And I just want to know, is that leaf? Is it a maple leaf?
It is
Hold
a
on.
maple leaf.
Canada.
There are several types of maple trees, and that is a red maple leaf from the red maple, and the red maple was what was in my front yard.
Flag. Leaf. Maple leaf, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, very distinct.
Yeah.
And I've no idea how that actually was created. How did that happen? I want to know, and so without further ado, let's find out, right?
Yes.
Canada's national flag is relatively new when compared to our closest allies.
Oh, really?
Unlike the United States, which first used a version of its flag at the beginning of the Revolutionary War, and would evolve over time by adding another star.
Yeah, this is, obviously, Americans are quite familiar with all of the iterations of the American flag.
Canadians are not that familiar. I'm seeing so many different patterns here for those stars. The stripes we're aware of. The stars we know represent the different number of states, but I did not know they had so many patterns.
I guess as states were added, stars were added to the upper left-hand corner.
I mean, one of those is an upside-down pentagram, and then another one is a right-side-up pentagram. I suppose the inverted pentagram would be the upside down. Anyway, the circles we know from the lines, yeah, the diamond shape, huh?
But I have no idea what the story of the Canadian flag is.
Star with every new state, or the United Kingdom, whose flag symbolizes a union of the three flags for Scotland, England, and Wales, which date back to the early 12th century.
Hence the Union Jack.
Canada's current flag did not exist until 1957.
Is that true? I mean, I assume this gentleman is telling the truth. I just had no idea.
Glenn, comment and let us know what you think about that.
That it's 70 years old. It was, wow. What? I mean, I guess they had another flag design before that. I shouldn't act too shocked. But long before I was born, this flag was around. So it just feels like my entire lifetime. anything that happened before I was born basically didn't happen, right? That's how that's how my logic works.
That's part of our generation, Tyler. Very normal.
Okay. So it's somewhat recent. Interesting.
Almost a century after Canadian Confederation. Between Confederation and gaining our independence, Canada had many different flags. Our flags evolved, like our territory, to encompass new provinces and territories as they joined the Confederation of Canada. When Newfoundland and Labrador joined Canada in 1949, it became apparent that Canada had expanded its borders as far as it could, and it was time to create a national flag.
As far as it could for now. Oh, that's right. Watch out, England. We're coming for you. I'm joking.
Okay, so around this time, Canada kind of was still forming, still making additions to what was technically part of Canada, and once it was pretty much understood that it had reached what Canada was gonna be, pretty much, for lack of a better word, it was time to come up with a flag that represented that. Interesting.
Represented all of our population. Thousands of proposals were put forward by students, professors, and even prime ministers.
Yeah, it wasn't just one person sitting on a rocking chair on their porch knitting a flag like we're told the American flag was generated.
That's awesome. That's great. I love that. You know, something like a flag, which at the end of the day represents the nation and the people, letting the people of Canada be a part of that process, submit their ideas. The guy down the street of you could have submitted the idea for the Canadian flag. That's awesome. Just to know that that was even a part of it. And I don't know if they ultimately ended up choosing a design from just like a common person, like some plumber or something. That would be so cool. But I don't know. I'm interested now. You
And that is a matter of pride, for sure.
got me.
Here's a look at what Canada's flag looked like in the past and what it could have looked like today.
Okay. Yeah, what did it look like in the
For
past?
most of Canada's history, our flag wasn't determined by our government or Canadians themselves, but by our conquerors. Extension of the colonial feud between the United Kingdom and France, parts of Canada flew either the symbol of France or of England, depending on their allegiance.
Ah, okay. So that's what we're kind of talking about.
And that's why the Quebec flag is very different from the Ontario flag, the Quebec fleur de lis qui vient du France.
Not about the Canadian flag as I know it existing before that. It was determined by these other nations that Canada was associated with.
The first flag known to have been flown in Canada was the St. George's Cross.
Maintenant, ça c'est proche à celui de Nouvelle-Écosse. Or in English, yeah, that's like Nova Scotia, New Scotland.
Carried by John Cabot when he reached Newfoundland in 1497. In 1534, Jacques Cartier planted a cross in Gaspé, bearing the French royal coat of arms with the fleur de lis. As the British began to dominate the region following multiple wars across almost every continent, most of Canada began to fly the Union Jack.
Yeah, and this symbol here, the Union Jack, has ended up still to this day on so many flags in the world, just kind of representing that long history and the United Kingdom's just wide reach.
The colonization, yes. And that is also why the Union Jack is part of many of our provincial flags as well.
The fact that this symbol ended up on so many modern nations' flags, even to this day, is fascinating about how history works. And, I don't know. I'm interested to see how this changed.
This flag would continue to be flown in Canada up until 1931.
Okay.
Shortly after Canadian Confederation in 1867, the need for distinctive Canadian flags emerged. Provinces had previously flown for...
Yeah, like this, where you kind of have a flag that represents your geographic area, but has the Union Jack in the corner or something. I've seen this image before.
Very normal.
Versions of the famous template of the British Red Ensign. Originally, Canada simply combined the coats of arms of its member provinces
Okay.
and placed it on a red ensign as well.
I mean, that
But
makes
this
sense.
does not mean that everyone adopted the same national flag. As new provinces were added, the idea of simply combining coats of arms became increasingly convoluted. By World War
So it eventually came to the point where kind of the old system of slapping your coat of arms on there, creating a flag, it was just getting more and more convoluted, and we needed a better solution. We needed a maple leaf.
Oh, yeah. Imagine if the American flag was part of every state's flag, but every state just put their state bird or state flower or state insect, that they have those things just right on top of the American flag. It would get pretty complicated flying all 50-something flags in front of every, state house.
Solution. Who knew? They had no idea what was coming.
I, the crest had become an exceptionally difficult flag to recreate. The sheer number of symbols and confusing crests led to different versions of the Canadian flag being flown within Canada itself, and sometimes by Canadian soldiers overseas. Yet, World War I provided a distinct opportunity. For the first time, all of Canada's member provinces were stationed in the same geographic region. At Vimy Ridge,
An opportunity to get everyone together and be like, hey guys, let's come up with a flag here.
Bittersweet to say that, yeah.
A flag that we're all cool with.
Maple leaf, a symbol that first emerged on the badge of the...
Oh, the maple leaf, hold on.
At Vimy Ridge, the maple leaf, a symbol that first emerged on the badge of the 100th Prince of Wales Royal Canadian Regiment of Foot, began to be carved into the soft chalk walls of the tunnels beneath the Canadian lines, emerging as a new symbol of national unity.
Wow, that's where that comes from.
Good to know. And there we see pictured the red maple. That's not just how it looks in fall or autumn. That's what it looks like.
I thought it was, they mentioned some kind of contest and having the population submit ideas. And maybe this is part of that. But the first mention of the maple leaf as an icon for Canada came from this wartime effort and the unity around that. Wow. I would never have guessed that. Very interesting.
In 1921, by proclaiming the Royal Arms of Canada, King George V made red and white the official colors of Canada.
Okay.
The search for a new national flag that would better represent Canada as an independent nation began in earnest in 1925, when the Privy Council set up a committee to investigate possible designs.
Okay, so now we're like setting up committees here. We're designating some actual people, an organization to say, we are getting a new flag, folks.
Yeah, funny how committees used to get things done.
So let's get on this and actually organize how we're going to logically design something this important.
This would mark the beginning of what is now called the Great Canadian Flag Debate, which would last almost 40 years.
I can see where designing a new flag for your country would cause some debate. I never even thought about that. Because, I can imagine. Just put myself in the same situation. If the American flag was going to be redesigned, I would have a big idea of what that design should look like. My own interpretation. So, man, coming up with something that everyone can be okay with.
This is how you get stuff like Bodie McBoatface.
Agree on. Maybe not all agree on, but ideally, in the best case scenario, everyone have a sense of pride in and somewhat agree on and come to a consensus on. That would be a massive undertaking.
E pluribus annus?
It wasn't until 1946 that the committee gave its first official recommendation, called, rather lazily, the 1946 Special Joint Committee's recommended national flag.
Okay.
Sadly, this appeared to be a mere revamp of the Canadian red ensign.
Yeah, this is a little lazy. And it also is keeping the Union Jack on there, which I imagine for a lot of Canadians at this point, they were probably thinking, hey, we're our own country, we're our own people. We don't have to have that on there. We can have a symbol, a flag that just represents us.
Yeah.
So yeah, funny that I mean it makes sense. This is kind of the first draft sort of idea, you know.
Yeah, first draft, and let's be honest, looks pretty good.
May come across as lazy, but it's like you come up with the first design and then you iterate. You come up with designs based on that design that are better. So it makes sense.
But it made one noticeable advancement. The committee recognized the maple leaf as Canada's national symbol, despite the fact that the design was never formally adopted.
Throughout the time that the committee was working on their own flag, Canadians from every province proposed their own. Attempts to symbolize national unity by using multiple symbols often became very elaborate, and only compounded the issue with the crest in the red ensign that they had been trying to solve.
Yes, I see. You have so many different people with so many different points of view all putting forth their idea of what the symbol of Canada is. So you have the maple leaf, which at this point in time everyone is kind of getting on board with and recognizing, and then you still have a lot of people probably submitting lots of other icons that
Like Leafy McLeafface.
they think make sense.
Picture
Student
it.
submissions, like these, succeeded in incorporating symbols from every province,
Yeah.
but they often incorporated too much symbolism
Oh, yeah.
and failed to create an image of Canada as a whole.
Goose.
Yeah, this is the devil's in the details. Design is not easy; it's a whole craft. So they were thinking these designs are cool. They have lots of things that represent Canada, but it's too much going on, too busy. We want someone, ideally, that would make a good flag, right? Something you can just look at instantly and say, Canada, right there.
And here we see the majestic Canadian goose traveling with a Canadian goose and a Canadian goose. You can tell they're Canadian because of all the maple leaves behind them, and yeah, the one fleur-de-lis representing Quebec, all brought together by the UK.
Got it.
Some attempted to do this by making the symbols abstract. This proposal was intended to symbolize French and English unity.
French and English unity. You go to Hull, c'est la sud du Québec, and you go to Orléans or Orleans in the eastern part of Ontario, and you don't really get the French and English unity. I'll tell you, one time I was in Quebec with some school friends, and I was the only one there who really spoke French, and we wanted to order some food at a restaurant. I went up, my French was a little rusty at the time, and I started ordering food, and the lady behind the counter just, go ahead in English.
Likely the closest Canada came to adopting a flag like this was called the Ephraim-Côté, proposed in 1939.
Oh.
It combined the Union Jack and the fleur-de-lis, with the maple leaf in the middle symbolizing the combination of the two.
But
Yeah, Canada sandwiched right between the English and the French.
That makes sense. Wow, we could have had a whole alternate history on our hands here. I'm glad we ended up with the Canadian flag as we know it, because I love it. Like I've known that symbol as far back as I can remember. Even when you're a child in America, your childlike instinct is to be drawn to that flag because at the time you don't understand what the leaf actually represents is quite serious and actually quite deep in meaning. You're just drawn to the uniqueness, to almost the fun that the flag is. A lot of flags are not very interesting, for lack of a better word. No offense to any flags, but
Refer to fun with flags for this one.
they represent their countries, and you can do that and also not be very interesting. The Canadian flag just happens to be really interesting.
Lester B. Pearson, a Prime Minister of Canada after World War II, wasn't pleased with any of these designs, and it seemed that Canadians weren't either.
That's why he's on some money.
20 years after the first committee came to their conclusion, a second was created.
This second select.
Oh, so the first committee to design the new Canadian flag was kind of a flop. It had a lot of iterations put forward, a lot of progress. The maple leaf is on everyone's radar now. And then like 20 years pass by, still no national flag, and they gotta do it all over again.
Parliamentary committee was appointed with the same mandate as its predecessor and examined more than 2,600 submissions.
Wow.
Pearson even favored his own, now colloquially called the Pearson pennant.
What?
The three maple leaves were supposed to symbolize the same idea of unity as the Ephraim Cote.
The guy choosing the design for the flag, or helping to choose it, had bias towards his own design.
Fair enough, though, he was the prime minister at the time.
Obviously, that spells disaster if the judge picks their own design.
With the addition of blue borders to reference Canada's national motto, from sea to shining sea.
I mean, it's not bad.
Those that loved it with a passion, like Pearson, but those that hated it were in the majority.
Oh,
So,
okay.
a new design was proposed. George Stanley, a Canadian historian, teacher, and author, revealed his design.
Okay.
For the first time, the Canadian flag as we know it today began to take shape.
Yeah, and that's cool that just this guy, this Canadian historian, I don't think he's a politician or anything, so just a member of the community, the Canadian community, put forth this iconic design. So that's actually really cool that it turned out that way.
Although the Union Jack and fleur-de-lis would eventually be dropped, and the
Right.
maple leaf changed in favor of a more simplistic, 11-pointed design, the winner of the Great Canadian Flag debate had become clear.
Yeah.
Making a clean, uncomplex version of the maple leaf center stage, and removing symbols that would do more for national divisions than national unity. While
Yeah, I mean, come on. How clean is that? That is super clean, super iconic. Imagine being that dude who just designed the Canadian flag. Imagine being that guy or knowing that guy. Put that on your resume when you're applying to whatever. wherever you want to work. Right under that, you worked at a McDonald's when you were 16. Right above that, designed the Canadian flag. No big deal. Yeah.
And made it so that it's visible in the snow, in the dark, on the ocean. Yeah, good job.
using only the colors which were made officially Canada's in 1921, Stanley had created the symbol that undeniably represents Canada as a whole to this day. Unlike other countries which needed to revise their flags every time a new province or state was added, Canada's flag is a symbol of a whole country being greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching.
Greater than the sum of its parts. Now, we do have a lot of national unity because of that, but we also have a lot of divides in spite of that, like Quebec wanting to separate, every other province making fun of Ontario, Nova Scotia just being Nova Scotia, which is like halfway between New Brunswick and Newfoundland, and we've got New Brunswick being halfway between Quebec and Nova Scotia, and then we've got Newfoundland. I hope he does a video about the Newfies.
Beautiful. Hold on, let's go back to that.
Being great.
Ah, just beautiful. It's kind of blowing in the wind at an angle that we can't see it, but
I'd say billowing, but yeah, you got it.
you get the point. That was very interesting. That was good. I was hoping the Canadian flag would have a good story behind it, and it definitely satisfied me. That was good stuff.
Nice. Didn't mention the snow. Didn't mention the blood of Canada through and through. That just might be my headcanon. I'm not so sure, but we definitely got the coast to coast, or from sea to shining sea.
I love how there was almost this contest. Just the government forming a committee and asking the people of Canada, come on, let's put our heads together, let's put some designs forward and try to come up with something cool. That's like one of the best ways. It's like a massive brainstorming session to design the flag. and it was a Canadian historian who played a major part. That's just beautiful. That's really cool. That was a great story.
And it's good to know why Lester B. Pearson is so significant. I mean, sure, he was a prime minister. Yeah, he did a lot. The flag, though, that's worth being on the money.
So yeah, that was very interesting. So if you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed this reaction, feel free to give it a like or a comment. If you want to make a comment on any of the ramblings I've gone on about, or how much you love the flag or its design, and
or
if you're,
either of us.
if you're interested in more videos like this, reacting to Canadian themes, Canadian culture, history, all of that stuff, Canadian stuff.
Yeah.
Feel free to subscribe for more videos just like this.
Do that.
Until then,
share it.
Thanks for watching, and see you next time. What's going on?
And please share this video if you enjoyed it on social media, because I am not on social media. I'm not going on social media, and I would appreciate the support. So share it there wherever you can. Send it to 2 friends. Ask them to send it to 2 friends, and if they share with 2 friends, I might make 2 new friends. Well, thank you very much for this, sitting with us throughout this whole thing. I've been Jeff, he's been Tyler, you've been awesome, and you just keep being awesome. Bye. Science. Spirit. Life.